So today we're going to be taking a short look at the built-in editor that comes when you download the Python interpreter, and the whole programming language comes with a thing called the idle shell, and we're going to be taking a look at how to get that going today and putting it to use. So first things first, there are a couple ways to get this going. I've actually opened it from the Spotlight, so I'll show you just like any other program. You can do a command space and type in this case, idle. And that brings up this guy, which I just had open and kind of has its own default size. So I'm going to resize it over here. That's one way to open it up. And then we're directly in the interpreter mode. So again, I can do things like assign a variable, new user equals JCI, and then I can do something like print new user. So straight into the interpreter mode, so I can type in commands, I can test things out, and I can also then do things like open up an existing file or make a brand new file. Okay, so we'll take a look at those in just a minute, but I want to show another way to open this just because. So if I have a file already over in a folder I can see, such as downloads, and I've got this path demos Mac PC Python file, if I right click on it or control click on it, I can choose open with. And if idle is not your default program, you should still be able to then either note it down here in the other options or choose it from other. So mine is the default. So simply by opening that, it will open up the actual file itself, as well as the shell that I had open earlier. So kind of does two things for me automatically, because the assumption is we want to be able to edit this file, but really idle is this shell down here. So it let me do both things. So I'm going to shrink that down so it's just taking up a little bit of space. And then here is the file that I wanted to actually see. And notice that it has some color coding going on. It has its own setup like most IDEs do. It doesn't have a ton of features that you might find in some other IDEs or editors, but it is pretty darn useful, and it has does some color coding to help us recognize different things, such as comments are in red in idle by default, and then we've got some other keywords that take on different colors. Something to note straight away, if this is your first time using idle, yours may not be showing the line numbers, and if we want to add that on, it's something that can be fairly easily done by going over to the idle and then settings option. I think this recently changed as well, so it may say preferences in a previous version of idle. It's currently saying settings, so it's kind of more Mac specific nowadays. So by choosing settings, I can then go to the shell editor prompt and choose show line numbers in new windows if that's not already chosen. Okay. And if we were trying to do it if we were trying to add line numbers to an existing file that wasn't already there, then we could choose options, show line numbers instead of hide. So right there, and toggles it back and forth. So pretty nice and easy to do. And then from here, if I'm on the actual Python file, so the code, I can choose run and then run my code, and notice that there's the F5 shortcut key, which is kind of nice. So if you want to use your function keys, you can. One thing to point out is this menu changes whether we're on the shell, which I'm on now. So notice that the run option has gone away. And if I switch back to the Python file, it changes back so I can run that file. Okay, sorry, the shell is something that I can use if I want to test out some things straight away. If I have some math I want it to do, I can do all that right from the shell. And then if I have a file that I'm trying to build for a larger code on my system, then I can do that here And again, just by choosing new file, it would open up a new window for us. And because I chose the preferences to have line numbers, there it is. So as soon as I was done, I could go ahead and hit save and then give this a name and tell it where I wanted to save. Okay, so there's a kind of a quick overview of using idle, which is the default editor available when you've downloaded Python, and it should be installed in your system automatically. That's it for now.